Hello, guys and gals, me Mutahar, and, let it be known that while I definitely have my issues with Nintendo as a company with how they handle things legally, let's just state a matter of fact. The Nintendo Switch is by far the third highest selling system ever released in the history of video gaming, okay? Now, somebody that loves video gaming, I love gaming in general. I love playing video games. I will not deny that the Nintendo Switch, prior to the release of the actual amazing Steam Deck, was slowly growing to be one of my most used gaming consoles. And why is that? Well, because I actually like playing things portably. I like playing things on the sofa. I like playing things cozy in bed. Sometimes I like switching my games up from the big screen to my handheld and vice versa. I think that's probably been one of the best features of the Switch that people don't really think about, right? Like, the best part about it is you get the idea of having that home system with that portable experience. Now, granted, the home system may not look as sharp as a PlayStation, but when you add the fact that you can just rip it and take it with you anywhere you go, I think people slowly very quickly move past that. But the Nintendo Switch was outdated when it released, and it's severely outdated as of today. Meaning that a lot of games that are coming out on it are obviously facing things like frame rate issues, facing things like just running properly in general. Forget the frame rate issue, okay? We're just trying to hit 20 frames sometimes. We're trying to hit a fraction of the frame rate with some of these Switch titles. But yes, the Switch hardware is crap, and it's time Nintendo releases something new. Now, I don't really talk about leaks, but the amount of leaks that we're looking at today pretty much all but confirm that the Nintendo Switch 2 exists. Like, when you've got the leaking of the fucking motherboard like this out in the world, at this point, just release the damn thing. Now, I don't know if this motherboard leak is entirely confirmed, but I want to go down through the history of it. About 8 days ago, I saw this image where people had looked through what appeared to be the motherboard of the Nintendo Switch. And interestingly enough, people started picking apart things like where game cards are being read, USBs, for instance, but importantly, that NVIDIA chipset right there. So all the actual astute individuals started looking closely at this NVIDIA chipset and basically realized that this thing was closer to a 2023 NVIDIA chip. Now, based on the analysis done by people who looked at this processor, it is based on something known as the T239, and it's based on Ampere. It's got 1,536 CUDA cores and drives 12 gigs of memory, which is substantially better than the actual Switch, of course. But because it runs on the RTX 30 series of architecture, that means it should support things like basic ray tracing and DLSS, which means you can render things at a lower resolution and get sharp resolution, of course, at a fraction of the processing power, which is really important for something like a Switch that's designed to be running on low power anyways. And again, some of the shipping information that people were digging through at this moment in time pretty much led individuals to finding out, yes, the circuit boards were in fact apparently pretty close to that Nintendo circuit board we saw allegedly earlier, okay? That alleged Nintendo circuit board. Again, I have no idea to confirm these leaks. I don't have access to Nintendo's shipping manifest, but it seems like it's pretty valid. Now, based on one of these users who analyzed the actual motherboard, they said that if you hold the Switch 2 in your hand, apparently you're right above a PlayStation 4 just before you touch things like DLSS, which is actually not bad for a handheld system, ladies and gentlemen. That makes it, from my understanding, slightly stronger than even the Steam Deck right there. And of course, you've also got docked, which is right between a PlayStation 4 Pro and an Xbox Series X, shortly before DLSS, and that's pretty impressive too. Xbox Series S is kind of like the baseline of this gaming generation. So even the games we have currently releasing multi-platform could end up showing their way over to a docked system. And because this is an NVIDIA chip, there's also an understanding that there's some level of ray tracing cores out there. So even games like Star Wars Outlaws or Indiana Jones that typically have a set of ray tracing features built in could ultimately see it kind of come to the Switch as well, at least in my understanding. And of course, ultimately, at the end of the day, this is a pretty powerful system that apparently has already been leaked. Now, obviously, I'm just talking about this motherboard. Even going down the road, if you thought that leak was bad, apparently even IGN is apparently sharing mock-ups of the fucking Switch 2. Like, when IGN doesn't care about the Nintendo Ninjas anymore, it's pretty much already fucking confirmed that the Switch 2 is probably going to look exactly like these leaks are, okay? But again, these leaks came from an accessory manufacturer known as Genki, okay? Now, Genki makes a lot of actual stuff for multiple different things like the Nintendo Switch, the Steam Deck, so on and so forth. And these were the guys that effectively have an entire page where you can see NS2 accessories. So if you actually look at the goddamn page, you can see very clearly this is the fucking Nintendo Switch 2 that they're advertising. Now, I would think that this might not be legal, because again, Nintendo is very careful about their IP. If they're showing an actual render, which they claim it is, I can only imagine the legal teams at Nintendo are ready and prepped to take these guys to a fucking court of law. But if you're looking carefully over here, interestingly enough, you've got what appears to be an optical sensor on one of these actual Joy-Cons. The actual triggers actually are not just clicky anymore. In fact, the R2 and L2 triggers are like, they're actual analog triggers, which are much more enjoyable. The only downside to this actual console that I'm actually seeing is literally the analog sticks. They're not caked in, so you definitely need like some standoffs if you want to have a good time. But yeah, it's the goddamn Nintendo Switch 2. I don't know what anybody was expecting this. It wasn't going to look like a fucking UFO or anything. It was literally going to be an iterative upgrade over the original Nintendo Switch. Why break something that is already so fucking perfect in its right? It's a hybrid console that is easy and light to hold. You can basically take it anywhere with you. Great battery life for the most part, especially comparing it to other handhelds in the market. And yeah, this is apparently the Switch 2. Apparently. Allegedly. Now, unless Genki is just blatantly lying, which means they're putting their entire brand up at risk, and obviously, it's either they're lying or they have revealed something well ahead of Nintendo, and I don't think that Nintendo would let another company leak their design before they could actually reveal it themselves. That is insane. And it's way too early for April Fools for me to even add this as a joke. Like, this is a weird situation of leaks that I've seen float around. Now, one of the other things that came out from a Chinese social media network out of Baidu Taeba was this image right over here. So this is actually the side profile of one of the Joy-Cons. And interestingly enough, it looks like it connects via, I think it's magnetized, or no, that's actually a port there. But what's important are people are looking at that optical sensor. So there's this weird understanding that maybe it's like a mouse almost. Like you can take this thing out, place it on the actual desk, and move it around like a mouse, and use the triggers as like a left-right mouse button press, which would be fucking huge. For anybody that has been following Nintendo Switch stuff, if you've ever looked into the market of Steam Decks that are not the Steam Deck, there is a great actual device known as the Lenovo Legion Go, which after the Steam Deck probably is like neck and neck one of my favorite devices. The only issue with that device is it doesn't have the actual touchpads that I use for older PC games, so realistically this thing is still going to beat it. But ever since I installed Bazite, or I guess you could say off-brand SteamOS, it made the Lenovo as good software-wise as my actual Steam Deck, because it's the same software. And it's so impressive with that device that you can also take off the controllers on the side and treat them like Joy-Cons. So if you want to deck that device and put it up to a TV, you can, and you can use these as really good controllers. In fact, probably the best handheld Switch-like controllers I've had. Now, the interesting thing about those controls and why I'm bringing it up is on the right Joy-Con for the Legion Go, you can actually flick a little switch on the bottom and turn it into a mouse. So if you want to play an FPS shooter, you can kind of play it with keyboard mouse controls. Now, I still don't think it's good like a regular keyboard mouse. Some people swear by it. I have not met those people yet, but it's an interesting case example for the Nintendo Switch adding like that extra layer of controls to their device. Like imagine playing something like Splatoon or a first-person shooter with that level of control. And also if you're a Legion Go user, with Bazite and the fact that those Joy-Cons disconnect, they also become pretty good Wiimote controllers as well. So if you're somebody that looks, forward to emulating the Wii, it's entirely doable with that device. But yeah, the Switch 2 has pretty much all been announced at this point. Like the motherboards have already been leaked out. The goddamn Joy-Cons are already out. We already know what this thing apparently looks like. So when is Nintendo actually going to release it? And based on one individual that formerly worked at their marketing wing, as wild as these leaks are, Nintendo just sticks to their plan. They have a date in their mind, and they're not going to budge no matter what. And I don't doubt that they will. The only thing that I actually am interested in with the Nintendo Switch 2 is all I care about is backwards compatibility. I own a lot of Nintendo Switch games physically, and one of my favorite things about gaming on consoles is the physical ownership of media. I hope the Nintendo Switch 2 has the support for like the game cards, and I hope you can just easily stick in your Switch game cards and play them on the Switch 2. I'm not even hoping for like gaming enhancements. I'm just hoping my previous physical library works whenever I switch up to the Nintendo Switch 2. And look, at the end of the day, I think one of the things that have come out of this is Nintendo really did change up the gaming industry a little bit, because I think the Nintendo Switch was basically the catalyst for, again, having devices like the Steam Deck, the Legion Go, and even devices like the Rogue Ally. There's so many PC companies that have jumped into the space because they've realized that for a lot of gamers, having the level of portability that is afforded by the Nintendo Switch is honestly more important than even having the most up-to-date visuals. If you can play big budget games like Cyberpunk 2077 at medium settings on a Nintendo or Steam Deck and have it running at 40 frames per second pretty consistently, that is a very cozy way to play the game. And with the way that the Nintendo Switch is looking, or the Switch 2, one day I could imagine CD Projekt Red releasing an actual Cyberpunk 2077 Ultimate Edition physically for that device, which I would buy, provided it contains all the content on the card. There's a reason why, when the Switch was as old as it was, that CD Projekt Red released Witcher 3 onto the actual Switch. It's because the market is there. Even if people are playing games at like a fraction quarter resolution of what they should be, it's still an interesting way to play the game. You can relax and cozy up and play all your favorite JRPGs in the palm of your hand. And I think that is something most large consoles are not able to do. If I could have bought, I shit you not, Persona 3 Reload on my Nintendo Switch instead of playing it on my PlayStation or PC, I easily would. Because let me tell you something right now, portability is a lot more cooler than just having the best visuals, at least in the Switch's case. And it shows that even with the most dog shit hardware, if you've got one of the coziest ways to play your games, people will come and buy. But if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. Wild time for leaks, okay? This is probably arguably even worse than the GTA 6 leaks. Like the fact that everything's pretty much already out, I don't even think the announcement's going to hit the same. We already know what the thing is supposed to look like. Nintendo, just fucking announce it at this point, dude. Just give a release date, for crying out loud. Bundle GTA 6 with the thing. Anyways, I am out.